He proposed with a flawless emerald ring at our engagement dinner, smiling at me while stealing glances at the woman he really loved. His mistress. His childhood best friend. The one he'd been secretly funding with laundered money through my father's company. I was meant to be the perfect heiress bride, beautiful, obedient, profitable. But when I uncovered the offshore accounts and the billion-dollar betrayal, I didn't fall apart. I turned the game on them. He used me as a pawn. Now I'm the one moving the pieces, and I always play to win. The diamond ring glinted under the soft chandelier light, its emerald center stone winking at me like a silent promise. I adjusted it slightly on the velvet display stand, making sure it caught the light just right. This is it. Tonight was supposed to be perfect. 3 years with Daniel Blackwood, 2 of those spent waiting for him to finally propose. And now here we were, our engagement dinner meticulously planned down to the last detail. I smoothed my hands over the cream linen tablecloth, double-checking the place settings. White roses and purple orchids, his mother's favorite, decorated the center of the U-shaped arrangement. The private dining room at Le Jardin was exclusive, the kind of place that required reservations months in advance. But being the daughter of Richard Laurent had its perks. "You've outdone yourself, Sophia," my mother murmured beside me, adjusting the diamond pendant at her throat, a twin to the one I wore. "The Blackwoods will be impressed." I exhaled, pressing a hand to my stomach to quiet the nerves. "They'd better be. I spent 3 weeks planning this." He gave me a knowing look. "And Daniel? Is he ready?" I smiled, remembering the way he'd kissed me this morning, his voice rough with sleep. "Tonight's the night, sophomore. No more waiting." "More than ready," I said. But as the clock ticked closer to 7 and the guests began arriving, I noticed something was off. Daniel was late. He arrived 15 minutes after everyone else, his dark suit immaculate, his smile polished. But his eyes, usually so warm when they met mine, darted past me, scanning the room. "You okay?" I whispered as he pressed a kiss to my cheek. "Just traffic," he said, but his hand felt stiff in mine. His parents greeted mine with practiced charm. Eleanor Blackwood air-kissed my cheeks, her perfume sharp and floral. "Darling, the flowers are exquisite. You have such an eye for detail." "Unlike your son," I almost quipped but bit my tongue. Then the door opened again. And she walked in. Isabella Moreau. Daniel's childhood best friend. The one who'd been studying in Paris for the last 5 years. The one whose name had slipped into his conversations more and more lately. She was breathtaking, tall with waves of dark hair and a silver dress that clung to her like liquid metal. "I hope you don't mind," Daniel said, his voice too casual. "Her parents couldn't make it and I didn't want her to miss this." My smile froze. "Of course. Bring the ex to our engagement dinner." "Perfect." Isabella's fingers brushed his arm as she leaned in. "Thank you for including me, Danny." "Danny." No one called him that except her. I forced a laugh. The more the merrier. But as Daniel led her to her seat, his hand lingering at the small of her back, I felt the first crack in the night's perfect facade. Dinner was a blur of expensive wine and polite conversation. My sister, Claire, entertained the table with stories from her travels, while my father and Mr. Blackwood debated the latest market trends. But Daniel, he was distracted. His laughter at Isabella's jokes was a little too loud. His fingers tapped restlessly against his glass. And every time I spoke, his responses were clipped, his gaze drifting over my shoulder, toward her. "Remember that summer we stole Mrs. Abernathy's garden gnomes?" Isabella grinned, touching his wrist. Daniel's face lit up. "And lined them up on the school roof?" They dissolved into laughter, lost in a memory I wasn't part of. I sipped my wine, the taste suddenly bitter. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. The ring presentation. Daniel stood, champagne glass in hand, and began the speech I knew he'd practiced. 3 years ago I met Sophia at a charity gala. She outbid me for a weekend in Tuscany. His words were perfect, his smile dazzling. But his eyes. They kept flicking to Isabella. He reached into his pocket for the ring box and fumbled. Nearly dropped it. A nervous laugh rippled through the room. My stomach tightened. He recovered, opening the box to reveal the emerald ring we'd chosen together. Then, instead of taking my hand, his gaze locked onto Isabella's. A silent exchange. A secret I wasn't meant to see. And then, as if pulled by some invisible force, he reached for her hand. The room went dead silent as he lifted her fingers to his lips and kissed them. Slow, intimate, wrong. Time stopped. The champagne flutes froze mid-sip. Even the waiters paused. And then, "Daniel," his mother hissed. He dropped Isabella's hand like it burned. I stood, my pulse roaring in my ears. The tears threatened, but I refused to let them fall. "Go ahead," I said, my voice steady. "Marry her instead." The gasps around us were deafening. But the worst part? The way Daniel didn't even try to deny it. The restaurant doors swung shut behind me with a finality that echoed through my bones. Somewhere in the chaos of my escape, my heel caught on the pavement, sending me stumbling into the humid Manhattan night. I barely felt the scrape of my knees through the numbness. "Sophia." "Wait." I recognized Eleanor Blackwood's voice but didn't turn around. The last person I wanted to see was Daniel's mother. Not when her son had just... A manicured hand caught my elbow. Eleanor looked uncharacteristically disheveled, her usually perfect chignon slipping loose. "You need to see this." She thrust a black lacquer box into my hands. The kind that usually held expensive jewelry. But when I flipped the lid open, there were no diamonds inside, just a stack of yellowed letters bound with faded ribbon. "Read them," Eleanor demanded. "Then you'll understand." The first envelope was addressed in looping feminine script. "To Danny, always yours." My stomach lurched. I don't remember agreeing to let Eleanor bundle me into her town car. Don't remember giving the driver my address. The next thing I knew, I was curled on my sofa, the letters spread before me like evidence at a crime scene. June 12, 2015. Danny. "Paris is beautiful but empty without you. Last night I walked by that cafe where we..." I flung the letter aside. The next was worse. September 3, 2017. "I know your parents want you to marry that shipping heiress, but we both know where your heart really is. Wait for me." The dates span nearly a decade. The most recent, 2 weeks ago. The night Daniel had claimed he was working late. "I'll be at the engagement dinner. Don't worry, darling. I know how to play the happy friend. But when you kiss her, imagine it's me." The words blurred. My hands shook so badly the paper rattled. Eleanor watched me with grim satisfaction. "I found these in his safe." "You knew." My voice sounded alien. Too high, too broken. "This whole time you knew?" "Not about the recent ones." She sank into the armchair across from me, her Chanel suit wrinkling. "They've been on again, off again since college. I thought it was over when he met you." A bitter laugh escaped me. "You didn't think to warn me?" Eleanor's gaze turned shrewd. "Would you have believed me?" The truth hit like a slap. "Oh, I wouldn't have. I'd been too busy playing the perfect girlfriend, molding myself into the woman Daniel Blackwood should want." My phone buzzed. "Daniel's 15th call tonight." Eleanor snatched it before I could react. "Stop calling her," she hissed into the phone. Then after a pause, "No, you don't. If you did, you wouldn't have." She abruptly hung up. "Come," she said, rising. "There's more." Eleanor's driver took us to a brownstone on the Upper East Side. Not the Blackwood family mansion, but a smaller property with ivy crawling up its brick facade. "My private office," she explained, ushering me inside. The room smelled of leather and expensive perfume. Eleanor went straight to a wall safe, spinning the dial with practiced ease. The document she handed me froze the blood in my veins. A deed. For a penthouse on Central Park West. Purchased 2 months ago. In Isabella's name. "Daniel bought this?" My voice barely worked. "With company funds." Eleanor's mouth twisted. "Clever girl had him route it through offshore accounts. But I have people who can trace these things." I studied the paperwork, the numbers swimming before my eyes. The purchase date matched our anniversary weekend, the one Daniel had canceled last minute, claiming a business emergency. A new memory surfaced. Daniel coming home that Sunday night with a bottle of French wine. "A thank you gift from a client," he'd said. Now I knew which client he'd been servicing. Eleanor placed a final document in my hands. A bank statement showing monthly transfers to an account in Paris. 5 years of payments, she said quietly. Her so-called art school tuition. The room tilted. I gripped the desk to steady myself. All this time I'd thought I was building a future. But Daniel had been funding someone else's. I returned to my apartment at dawn, the first gray light of morning creeping through the windows. My dress, once a triumphant burgundy, now hung limp and wrinkled, the sash dragging on the floor like a broken wing. The ring box sat on my coffee table where I'd left it. I picked it up, the emerald glittering mockingly. 3 carats. Flawless clarity. A lifetime of lies. My phone buzzed again. Not Daniel this time. My sister. Claire, where are you? Dad's freaking out. I couldn't face them. Not yet. Instead, I opened my laptop and typed 2 words into the search bar. Isabella Moreau, Paris. Social media profiles bloomed across the screen. There she was, laughing at cafes, posing before the Eiffel Tower. And in nearly every photo, the same silver bracelet with a diamond charm. The one I'd seen on Daniel's credit card statement last month. The one he'd claimed was for his secretary's retirement gift. I clicked through older albums. 2016. A younger Daniel with his arm around Isabella at some beach resort. 2013. The 2 of them at a Christmas party, his lips pressed to her temple. Then I found it. A photo from 3 months ago. Isabella in a familiar restaurant. The same one where Daniel had taken me for my birthday. The timestamp showed 11:13 p.m. The exact time he'd stepped out to take an investor call. My hands moved of their own accord, downloading every image, every post. Methodical. The way Daniel had been when he'd planned this charade. The printer hummed to life, spitting out page after page of evidence. I pinned them to my wall like a detective mapping a case. That's when I saw it. A comment from 2 weeks ago under Isabella's latest post. A selfie at JFK Airport with the caption, "Home for good Dizzy." The username D. Blackwood had replied. Finally. I've waited long enough. The date stamp? The night he'd proposed to me. Something inside me snapped. I reached for my phone and dialed a number I'd never used before. The one Eleanor had pressed into my palm as I left her office. A man answered on the second ring. "Ms. Laurent," he said as if he'd been expecting my call. "I was wondering when you'd reach out. Who are you? Let's just say I know things about the Blackwoods. Things that could help you. Pause. For the right price." I stared at the damning collage on my wall. "Name your terms," I said. The man on the phone called himself Fox. "Meet me at the Vault," he said, naming an underground bar near Wall Street. "Midnight. Come alone." I spent the day in a haze, ignoring Daniel's relentless calls and my sister's worried texts. At 11:45 p.m. I slipped into a black trench coat and sunglasses. Ridiculous for nighttime, but I felt like I was entering a spy thriller. The Vault lived up to its name. A speakeasy hidden behind an unmarked door in a Chase Bank basement. The bartender took one look at me and nodded toward a shadowed booth. Fox was younger than I expected, early 30s with sharp Slavic cheekbones and a tailored suit that screamed former finance bro gone rogue. He swirled a glass of bourbon, ice cubes clinking like a countdown. "Sophia Loren," he mused. "The woman who almost became a Blackwood." I slid into the booth. "What do you know about Daniel?" "More than you'd like." He pushed a manila envelope across the table. "Start with these." The documents inside made Eleanor's revelations look tame. Exhibit A. A shell company named Moreau Holdings registered in the Cayman Islands. Exhibit B. Wire transfers from Blackwood Capital totaling $2.3 million over 3 years. Exhibit C. A deed for a St. Tropez villa purchased 6 months ago, in Isabella's name. But the real bomb was the last page. A grainy surveillance photo of Daniel and Isabella entering a Zurich bank vault. Dated the day after our engagement party. Fox watched my reaction like a chess master anticipating a move. Your fiancé wasn't just cheating. He was laundering money. The bourbon burned my throat as I gulped it down. Explain. Fox leaned in, his cologne carrying whispers of expensive courtrooms and backroom deals. Blackwood Capital's Emerald Fund? It's a Ponzi scheme. Daniel's been siphoning investor cash to fund Isabella's lifestyle. He tapped the Zurich photo. This was them moving funds before the SEC audit next month. I stared at the numbers, my marketing brain connecting dots. The business trips to Switzerland. Daniel's sudden interest in my father's investment contacts. Even the emerald engagement ring. A fucking inside joke. Why tell me? I asked slowly. Fox's smile didn't reach his eyes. Because you have something I need. He wanted the Laurent family's private server credentials. The backdoor access my father used for high-frequency trading. The same system Daniel had asked me about twice last month. My stomach turned to lead. You think Daniel targeted me for my family's tech? Bingo. Fox slid a flash drive across the table. This proves it. The video file showed Daniel at a private club, laughing with his Harvard buddies. Rich girls are easy marks, he bragged, champagne sloshing in his glass. Sophia's so desperate for a ring she'd hand over her father's algorithms if I slammed the laptop shut. Fox sipped his drink. Still want revenge? Outside, thunder rumbled like the universe itself was pissed. I woke to pounding on my penthouse door. Daniel stood in the hallway, tie askew, eyes bloodshot. He looked like he'd been up all night, probably because Fox had leaked the first batch of documents to Bloomberg an hour ago. Blackwood stock was already tanking. Sophia. His voice cracked. We need to talk. I didn't move. About which lie? The affair? The embezzlement? Or how you only proposed to steal my father's? It wasn't like that. He shoved past me into the apartment, reeking of whiskey and panic. Isabella manipulated me. She. Bullshit. I pointed to the surveillance photos now taped to my wall. You looked pretty cozy in Zurich. Daniel froze, finally noticing my murder board, bank records, timelines, even his fucking love letters pinned like butterfly specimens. His face changed then. The charming mask slipped, revealing something colder. You've been busy. Learned from the best. I crossed to the wet bar, pouring myself a tequila shot. Eleanor sends her regards. It got him. His jaw twitched. My mother hired you. Please. I knocked back the drink. She's just saving her own skin before the SEC comes knocking. Daniel lunged suddenly, gripping my wrists. Listen to me. Isabella has dirt on me. Things that could. My knee connected with his groin. Hard. As he crumpled, I yanked open the door to reveal Claire and two NYPD officers. Mr. Blackwood, the cop said dryly, we've had complaints about trespassing. Daniel's laugh was bitter as he staggered upright. You'll regret this, Sophia. I held up my phone, recording the entire confrontation. Add threats to your list of crimes. The fallout was nuclear. By noon, #Blackwood fraud was trending. CNBC ran a segment dissecting the shell companies. My father froze all business ties, sending shockwaves through the finance world. And Isabella? She showed up at my office. Low Poly Marketing's receptionist gaped as Isabella stormed past her in head-to-toe Chanel, slamming my glass door hard enough to rattle the framed awards. You ruined everything, she hissed. I didn't stand. Just swiveled my chair to face her. Funny. I was about to say the same to you. Up close, Isabella was even more stunning and furious. Her French manicure dug into my desk. Daniel loves me. We were endgame until you. Until I what? I smiled sweetly. Exposed your little money laundering scheme? I tapped my keyboard, pulling up the Zurich photo on my monitor. Oops. Isabella's confidence flickered. She glanced at my assistant hovering nearby. We should talk privately. Anything you have to say can be said in front of witnesses. I leaned back. Unless you'd prefer I call the SEC? Her composure cracked. You don't know who you're dealing with. Actually. I opened my desk drawer, pulling out Fox's final gift. A burner phone with one contact saved. FBI agent R. Vasquez. I do. Isabella turned ghost white. My intercom buzzed. Ms. Laurent? Liam Blackwood is here to see you. Isabella's perfect lips parted. Liam. The door swung open, revealing Daniel's estranged older brother, tall, dark-haired, and holding a file stamped confidential. His storm-gray eyes locked onto Isabella. Run along, Izzy. The adults are talking. The air in my office crackled with tension as Liam Blackwood closed the door behind Isabella's retreating figure. For a heartbeat we just stared at each other. Me still gripping the FBI burner phone, him clutching that ominous confidential file. Up close, Liam was everything Daniel wasn't. Broader in the shoulders, sharper in the jaw, with a quiet intensity that didn't need to announce itself. His charcoal suit was impeccably tailored but lacked the showy Blackwood insignia on the cufflinks. Nice knee strike, he said finally, nodding toward the security feed still frozen on my monitor. Daniel doubled over in my foyer. But next time aim for the solar plexus. More efficient. I didn't smile. What do you want, Liam? He dropped the file on my desk. It landed with a thud that made my assistant jump outside the glass walls. To show you what you're really dealing with. The first page was an Interpol notice with Isabella's face. Name, Isabella Moreau alias. Affiliations, suspected ties to Volkov crime syndicate. Modus operandi, honey trap asset extraction. My fingers trembled as I flipped to the next page. A list of names, all wealthy men, all linked to shell companies. Daniel's name appeared third from the top. This isn't just about money, Liam said quietly. She's been funneling intel to Russian oligarchs through her art gallery in Paris. A cold realization slithered down my spine. The offshore accounts. Fronts for weapons trafficking. Liam's jaw tightened. And my idiot brother walked right into it. We reconvened at a private members-only club in Midtown, the kind of place where the waiters wore white gloves and discretion was baked into the $50,000 membership fee. Liam led me to a secluded booth, his hand hovering just above the small of my back, close enough to guide but not quite touching. Classic Blackwood restraint. Start from the beginning, I demanded as soon as the sommelier left with our untouched wine list. Liam leaned forward, his cologne, something woodsy and understated, washing over me. 2 years ago, Isabella reconnected with Daniel at a Monaco yacht party. Coincidentally, the same week Blackwood Capital won the Petrogas contract. I remembered that trip. Daniel had come home sunburned and distracted, smelling of salt water and someone else's perfume. She played the long game, Liam continued. The childhood sweetheart act, the damsel in distress routine when she needed help with her gallery. His thumb traced the rim of his water glass. What Daniel didn't know. Petrogas CO is Volkov's cousin. The pieces clicked into place with terrifying clarity. Isabella hadn't just wanted Daniel's money. She'd been mining him for corporate intel to sell to the Russians. And you? I studied Liam's profile, the way the candlelight caught the flecks of silver in his stubble. Where do you fit in? A shadow crossed his face. I've been building a case against her for 18 months. When I heard Daniel propose to you, I tried to warn him. A bitter chuckle. He accused me of jealousy. I snorted. Sounds familiar. Our eyes met and something unspoken passed between us. An acknowledgement that we'd both been played by the same people. Liam reached into his breast pocket and slid a keycard across the table. Suite 421 at the Peninsula. All my evidence is there. Security knows to expect you. I didn't touch it. Why trust me? Because you're the only person who hates them more than I do. His gaze dropped to my left hand where the emerald ring had once sat. And because you're smart enough not to get caught. The Peninsula suite looked like a war room. One entire wall was covered with a timeline. Photos of Isabella at various galas, red string connecting her to shadowy figures. A laptop played surveillance footage of her meeting with a bearish man in Moscow. But the real shocker was on the desk. A notarized copy of Daniel's will, leaving everything to a Isabella Marie Duval, her real name. Executed 3 days before your engagement party, Liam said from the doorway. I whirled around. You followed me? Protective detail. He shrugged out of his suit jacket, rolling up his sleeves to reveal a tattoo I recognized. The Blackwood family crest, but with the stag's head turned upside down. A quiet rebellion. Volkov's people have been tailing you since the news broke. Ice flooded my veins. Am I in danger? Not yet. He handed me a tumbler of scotch. But you will be if we proceed. I knocked back the drink, the burn steadying me. What's the play? Liam's smile was all sharp edges. We give Isabella exactly what she wants. The plan was audacious. Liam would feed Isabella falsified documents suggesting the Lauron family was developing AI to predict commodity prices. A gold mine for traders. I'd play the heartbroken ex seeking revenge, offering to leak the tech specs. We bait the trap, Liam explained as we pored over blueprints at 3 a.m., and when she takes the files to Volkov, Interpol arrests her at the handoff. I chewed my lip. And Daniel? Liam's expression darkened. Depends how deep he's in. A notification buzzed on his phone. He glanced at it, then did a double take. Speak of the devil. The screen showed a security alert. Daniel had just entered Liam's downtown loft. Alone? I asked. Liam was already strapping a shoulder holster under his dress shirt. Let's find out. We caught Daniel mid-ransack, his manic hands tossing Liam's study apart. Looking for something? Liam drawled from the doorway. Daniel spun, his usually perfect hair disheveled. When he saw me, his eyes widened. Sophia? What the? Isabella sent you, Liam stated, moving to block the exit. She's panicking now that her money pipeline's cut off. Daniel's laugh was hysterical. You don't understand. She has photos, things that could get you disinherited? Liam pulled out his phone and played a video. Isabella whispering in Russian to a man at a poker table, the subtitles reading, "The Blackwood idiot will sign anything once I." Daniel collapsed into a chair like a marionette with cut strings. Oh God. I should have felt vindicated. Dad, I just felt tired. How much does she have on you? His confessions spilled out, compromising videos, forged signatures on wire transfers, even a secret baby he'd allegedly fathered with a maid. All faked, all leverage. Liam exchanged a glance with me. This changed everything. Daniel wasn't a villain. He was another victim. The child didn't exist. That was the first thing Liam said after Daniel's sobbing confession. There is no baby. Isabella's been bluffing this whole time. Daniel looked up from his third scotch, red-rimmed eyes widening. But the photos. Deep fakes. Liam tossed his phone onto the coffee table between us, displaying a side-by-side comparison. The left showed a grainy image of Daniel cradling an infant. The right a stock photo from a parenting magazine. She's been manipulating you with AI. I watched the realization dawn on Daniel's face. First shock, then rage, then something far more dangerous. Relief. He straightened, the defeated slump vanishing from his shoulders. We have to expose her. Liam and I exchanged a glance. That we should have irritated me. But the fire in Daniel's eyes, the first hint of the man I'd once fallen for, stopped my sarcastic retort. Here's how we do it, Liam said, pulling up a blueprint on his tablet. The plan was simple in theory. 1. Daniel would pretend to cave to Isabella's demands, offering to steal my AI algorithm. 2. I would play the bitter ex, publicly accusing him of corporate espionage. 3. Liam would provide falsified documents laced with digital trackers. The catch. Isabella would never take the bait unless she believed I was truly broken. Which meant I had to humiliate myself on the world stage. The Wall Street Journal interview was my idea. I wore the same burgundy dress from the engagement dinner, now wrinkled from being stuffed in my closet for weeks. No makeup, hair deliberately messy. The picture of a woman unraveling. Ms. Laurent, the reporter began, not even hiding her pity, how did you discover the affair? I let my voice crack just enough. He left his email open on my laptop. A lie, but a believable one. By noon my breakdown was trending. CNBC ran a segment titled "Scorned Woman Seeks Revenge." Best of all, Isabella took the bait. Her text arrived as I was drinking alone at a hotel bar, with Liam's team surveilling every angle. Isabella, meet me. You deserve to hear the truth. I showed Liam the message. His jaw tightened. It's too soon. She's testing you. I typed back. Why would I trust you? Her reply came with a photo attachment. Daniel's private flight records showing trips to Zurich I hadn't known about. Isabella, because I can destroy him for you. Liam cursed under his breath. She's escalating. I stared at the records, my fingers trembling, not from heartbreak but fury. All those business trips. Change of plans, I said, downing my martini. I'm going in tonight. Isabella's penthouse smelled like jasmine and deceit. She greeted me in a silk robe, her French manicure glinting as she poured 2 glasses of Bordeaux. I knew you'd come. The apartment was a shrine to her conquests. Photos with oligarchs on yachts, framed auction catalogs, even a signed Picasso sketch. My gaze snagged on a familiar sight. The silver bracelet Daniel had bought her, displayed like a trophy in a glass case. I want him ruined, I said, slumping onto her white leather sofa. Isabella's smile was all sharp edges. Then let's talk business. She laid out her terms. I'd hand over my father's AI models, and she'd leak Daniel's crimes to the SC. Perfect. I pulled the flash drive from my purse, the one Liam had rigged with spyware. Everything's here. Isabella's fingers brushed mine as she took it, lingering just a second too long. You're smarter than he gave you credit for. The double meaning hung between us. Then her intercom buzzed. Miss Duval. A male voice. Delivery. Isabella frowned. I didn't order. The door burst open. Chaos erupted. 3 men in tactical gear stormed in, guns drawn. Not cops. Their balaclavas and lack of badges screamed mercenaries. Isabella moved like a viper, yanking a pistol from her robe pocket. You bitch, she hissed at me. I dove behind the sofa as gunfire shattered a Ming vase. This wasn't Liam's plan. This was a kidnapping. A hand clamped over my mouth from behind. I elbowed hard, connecting with ribs, but the grip only tightened. Stop fighting, a voice growled in my ear. Or we shoot her. Through the smoke, I saw Isabella pinned to the ground, a knee between her shoulder blades. The last thing I registered before the needle jabbed my neck was Liam's voice screaming my name through the comms unit hidden in my earring. The darkness. I woke to the hum of a private jet. My wrists were zip-tied to a leather armrest. Across the aisle, Isabella sat perfectly composed, reapplying her lipstick as if we weren't 30,000 feet above the Atlantic. Welcome back, she purred. Volkov's eager to meet you. The name sent a chill down my spine. Russian mob. I tested my bonds. Liam will tear the world apart to find me. Isabella laughed. Poor Liam. Always one step behind. She leaned in, her breath hot against my ear. Did you really think a Blackwood would choose you over blood? The implication hit like a bullet. Liam set me up. The plane lurched suddenly. Isabella stumbled as the captain's voice crackled over the intercom. Unidentified aircraft approaching. Then the world exploded in noise and light. The crash tore the world apart. 1 second I was zip-tied to a leather seat, Isabella's taunts ringing in my ears. The next, screaming metal, the acrid stench of fuel, and a blast of Arctic air so cold it felt like knives stabbing my lungs. I came to face down in snow, my left wrist screaming where I'd wrenched it free. The jet's wreckage burned behind me, flames licking at the twilight. No sign of the mercenaries. No sign of her. Then a groan to my left. Isabella crawled from beneath a twisted seat, her silk robe in tatters, one arm clutched to her ribs. Blood streaked her perfect cheekbone. For a heartbeat we just stared at each other. 2 women who'd tried to destroy each other, now stranded in the middle of nowhere. She spoke first. You're impossible to kill. I spat snow from my mouth. Disappointed. A shadow passed over her face as she took in the wreckage. Volkov will assume we're dead. That's when I understood the real danger. We weren't just stranded. We'd been erased. The survival training I'd hated at boarding school came rushing back. I scavenged the wreckage. A first aid kit, half a protein bar, and miraculously, Liam's bugged flash drive still in Isabella's pocket. She watched me pocket it with narrowed eyes but said nothing. We need shelter, I said, eyeing the storm clouds gathering. Isabella laughed bitterly. What? No, I told you so. No lecture about how. Save the drama. I yanked a seat cushion free, grimacing at the bloodstains. We'll die in 3 hours if we don't move. The temperature was dropping fast. My fingers had already gone numb. Isabella hesitated, then ripped a strip from her ruined robe. For your wrist. It was the first decent thing she'd ever done for me. We found a shallow cave as the snow began in earnest. Huddled together for warmth. The ultimate irony, I finally asked the question burning in my chest. Did Liam betray me? Isabella's silence was worse than a yes. Dawn brought clarity in frostbite. Isabella's fingers were turning blue. So were mine. Hypothermia loomed, but the real threat was the distant hum of a helicopter. Volkov's men, Isabella whispered, pressing deeper into the cave. I peered through the snow. That's a Eurocopter. Russian forces use Mi-8s. A beat. The Liam. He said his name like a curse. The betrayal cut deeper than the cold. He'd known about the crash. Which meant he'd let it happen. Isabella grabbed my arm. If they find us. I know. We moved as one, scrambling over icy rocks toward the tree line. The chopper's searchlight skimmed the crash site, lingering where we'd left false tracks. Then Isabella's foot slipped. She fell with a cry, her body skidding toward a ravine. I lunged, catching her wrist just in time. For a suspended moment we hung there, her life literally in my hands. Why? she gasped, staring up at me. I tightened my grip. Because I'm not you. We found the bunker by accident. A rusted door half buried in snow led to a Soviet-era listening post. Abandoned but still stocked with canned goods and, miraculously, a radio. Isabella collapsed onto a cot, her breath ragged. We should stay. Wait out the storm. I was already at the radio, fiddling with the dials. And then what? Starve. Static crackled. Then, faint but clear, a voice. Mayday, mayday. This is Blackwood Retrieval Team. My blood turned to ice. Liam's voice. Isabella met my eyes across the dark bunker. Neither of us moved toward the mic. The radio crackled again. Sophia, if you can hear me, trust no one. The deal's gone bad. I'm coming for you. A shadow passed over Isabella's face. He's lying. But the tremor in her voice said she wasn't sure. And neither was I. The truth came at gunpoint. We just decided to risk a signal flare when the bunker door burst open. Not Liam. Not Volkov's men. Daniel. He looked like hell, bruised, frostbitten but very much alive, a pistol leveled at Isabella's chest. You, she breathed. His laugh was ragged. Surprise. I stepped between them. What the hell, Daniel? The hell, he snarled, is that Liam's been playing us all. He tossed a satellite phone at my feet. Listen. The recording was damning. Liam negotiating with Volkov, trading 2 troublesome assets for control of Blackwood Capital. Our lives for his empire. Isabella made a sound like a wounded animal. He promised me. He lied, Daniel spat. To all of us. Outside, the helicopter's rotors grew louder. Time was up. The bunker door exploded inward. Snow and debris blasted through the room as Liam's men stormed in, rifles raised. I dove behind a supply crate, my pulse hammering in my throat. Isabella scrambled for Daniel's dropped pistol. Then silence. A single pair of polished Oxfords stepped through the wreckage. He wasn't wearing tactical gear like his men. Just a cashmere overcoat dusted with snow, his hands casually tucked in his pockets. The familiar scent of his cologne, bergamot and sandalwood, hit me like a physical blow. Sophia, he said softly, as if we were meeting for cocktails rather than at gunpoint. You look terrible. Isabella snarled and raised the gun. Liam didn't even flinch. That's not loaded, Isabella. He pulled the trigger. Daniel's laugh was hollow. You always were a bastard, Liam. The truth unfolded in fractured pieces. 1. Liam's betrayal had been a ruse to draw out Volkov. 2. The crash was staged. The jet's black box deliberately led them here. 3. Daniel had been working with Interpol for months. I stared at the brothers, my breath coming in ragged clouds. You planned this. Liam's gaze locked onto mine. Every move. Isabella made a strangled sound. The recording. Edited. Daniel wiped blood from his lip. Had to make it convincing. The bunker spun around me. All those days in the Arctic, the near-death escapes, just chess moves to them? Liam reached for me. Sophia. I slapped him hard enough to split my knuckles. You left me to die. His eyes darkened. I knew you'd survive. And that was the cruelest part, he'd been right. The extraction was clinical. Liam's men bundled Isabella into one chopper, for her own protection, Liam claimed. Daniel took the second, off to clean up loose ends. Which left me alone with Liam in the frozen wasteland, the rotors of his private aircraft whipping snow into furious spirals. You could have trusted me, I shouted over the noise. He crowded me against the helicopter's warm interior, his voice rough. Would you have believed me if I said I was risking everything to take down Volkov? His lips were inches from mine. The heat between us had nothing to do with survival. Yes, I lied. Liam smiled like he knew. Then he kissed me, hard, possessive, tasting of scotch and recklessness. When he pulled away, his thumb brushed my split lip. Prove it. 1 month later, the world thought Isabella Moreau was dead. The papers called it a tragic yacht accident off Monaco. Poetic justice, given where her scheme began. Volkov's empire crumbled under sudden tax audits. And Blackwood Capital? Daniel sold it. I watched the press conference from Liam's penthouse, wrapped in his dress shirt. On screen, Daniel looked lighter than I'd ever seen him. Retiring to focus on philanthropy, he announced, winking at the camera like the charming bastard he was. Liam's arms slid around my waist. Happy. I turned in his grasp, studying the man who'd played me better than anyone. The man I'd somehow fallen for anyway. Not yet. I pressed the flash drive into his palm, the real one with all Volkov's secrets. But I will be. His laugh was dark and promising as he backed me toward the bedroom. Outside, Manhattan glittered like the diamond I'd pawned to fund my new consulting firm. The emerald ring was gone. But the game? The game was just beginning. Epilogue. 6 months later. The invitation arrived on heavy cream stock. Blackwood and Lawn. Request the pleasure of your company. For the merger of their respective enterprises. I traced the embossed letters, smiling. Liam's note was scrawled at the bottom. Pick a side, sweetheart. Or better yet, let's make our own. The end.